Good morning, and in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Well, I'm wearing my Wolverine cap, my Nike shirt, or in this case a tank top, and my leather coat, and that means it's time for another spoiler review of an X-Men movie, specifically the 2013 sequel known as The Wolverine. Oh boy, I am so excited to review this because, well, I pretty much got to watch the extended cut a few weeks ago, so it really has given me a bit of a more of a appreciation. If you don't know why, you're gonna find out. But anyway, before I start this review, I must warn you, this contains spoilers not only for the 2013 Wolverine movie, but also I mentioned spoilers from X-Men The Last Stand. This is your warning. If you haven't seen The Wolverine and X-Men The Last Stand, remember, this is your warning that this review contains spoilers. Alright, let's get to the review.
The Wolverine is a 2013 superhero movie starring Hugh Jackman and is the second installment in his solo Wolverine trilogy. Written by Mark Baumbach and Scott Frank and directed by James Mangold, this film marks the first time in which Mangold contributes to the X-Men franchise. Whereas X-Men Origins was a prequel, The Wolverine is a direct sequel to X-Men The Last Stand, and even takes inspiration from the 1982 Wolverine solo comic book series that was written by Chris Claremont and illustrated by Frank Miller. Personally, I would recommend you read the Claremont-Miller Wolverine series. It's practically a rite of passage to becoming a Wolverine fan. Ditto Old Man Logan, but I digress. As I said before, The Wolverine takes place right after The Last Stand, specifically 7 years. Logan, played once again by Hugh Jackman, is living alone in a cave, still feeling guilty after having to mercy kill Jean Grey in X-Men 3. The guilt's so bad he has nightmares about her, and we even get to see Famke Janssen reprising her role as Jean for these scenes, which is a nice addition. Logan has now regained all of his memories, so now he remembers everything, including all the wars he had fought in. This is actually an improvement to his development over X-Men Origins, and we get a Logan who is guilt-ridden and world-weary, vowing never to kill anyone with his adamantium claws ever again, even if he's tempted a lot. After confronting one douchebag that used an illegal poison on a bear, Logan meets Yukio, played by Rila Fukushima. Yukio is also a mutant who has the ability to see the future, specifically future deaths. Yukio asks Logan to come to Japan to meet up with Ichiro Yashida, whom Logan had saved back in World War II when Nagasaki was nuked by the atomic bomb. Yashida is played by Ken Yamamura in the World War II flashbacks. Yashida is dying and has asked Yukio to bring Logan back to Japan because Ichiro is dying of cancer and wants to see this old acquaintance once more, feeling as though he owes a bit of a life debt to the Canadian mutant. At first, Logan is a bit reluctant to go back to Japan, a country he hasn't seen since World War II, but eventually he relents and joins Yukio on a plane to Japan. When Logan and Yukio come to Japan, Logan soon learns that Yashida is the CEO of a powerful tech company. After getting all cleaned up, Logan meets Ichiro's son Shinjin, played by Hiroyuki Sanada, and Ichiro's granddaughter Mariko, played by Tao Okamoto. After getting a rather cold greeting from Shinjin, Logan then meets up with the older Ichiro, who's played by Haruhiko Yamanouchi. Although Logan believes he was brought to Tokyo to say goodbye to Yashida, Ichiro actually wants to take Logan's near-immortal healing factor and transfer it into himself, while Logan would just be a mortal mutant who would grow old, age, and then die. Anything to prevent himself from dying from cancer. But seriously though, didn't Ichiro ever watch that one Doctor Who episode known as the Lazarus Experiment? Old men who are trying to regain youth and seek immortality are damned to suffer monstrous consequences. I think Logan got that memo, because he turns Ichiro down, but he doesn't tell him to go fuck himself. After that awkward encounter, Logan goes to sleep, but then he gets attacked by Yashida's physician, Dr. Green. Oh wait, maybe it's a dream. Or is it? Dr. Green, or Madame Viper, or just plain Viper, is played by Russian actress Svetlana Kolchenkova, her character being based on a comic book character known as Madame Viper, or oftentimes Madame Hydra, who made her comic book debut in Captain America number 110 and was created by Jim Steranko. It's quite obvious Fox couldn't call her Madame Hydra because at the time, there were certain Marvel things Fox owned the rights to back then, but Hydra was not one of them. They belonged to the Mouse House. and were eventually going to be used in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Madam Viper has an immunity to most toxins and venoms, and she can even expel toxins from her mouth, like a snaky snake. Anyway, back on subject. The moment Logan wakes up, he soon learns from Yukio that Ichiro is dead. So, Logan and Yoshida's family attend Ichiro's funeral, and that's where he meets Mariko's Minister of Justice fiancé, Noburo, played by Brian T. Also there is Mariko's ex-boyfriend Harada, played by Will-Yun Lee. He's trying to protect Mariko and her family. Well, shit hits the fan at Ichiro's funeral when Yakuza gang members start suddenly attacking Mariko. Turns out in her grandfather's will, Mariko was meant to take over as the new CEO of Ichiro's company instead of Shinjan. So, to put it plainly, Mariko,
you in danger, girl.
Logan is able to fend off the Yakuza, but while he takes Mariko to a bullet train, he finds out that whenever he gets stabbed or shot, he's not healing as fast as he usually does.
Ooh, that's bad.
You're darn right that's bad, Homer. Even Logan knows that's bad when more Yakuza and other goons start attacking, but Logan's able to fend them off in a pretty cool train sequence that I would compare favorably to the train scene in Spider-Man 2. The 2004 sequel, not the PS5 video game. But I'm sure you knew that. When the train stops, Logan gets Mariko out of there and they take refuge in a local lover's hotel. While Logan gets patched up by a veterinarian, Harada meets with Madam Viper, and once he finds out she's a mutant, she demands that he find Logan and Mariko and bring them to her. Once Logan's all fixed up, he and Mariko go to her grandfather's house in Nagasaki. Logan eventually figures out that it was Madam Viper who was responsible for poisoning him and causing his healing powers to slow down in an unnatural manner. So yeah, that smooch was definitely not a dream. While at the old Yoshida house, Logan and Mariko fall in love. Aw, that's nice. Meanwhile, Yukio has a vision of certain foreshadowing, and so she goes to Mariko and Logan to warn Wolvie. But before Yukio can get there, the Yakuza come back and kidnap Mariko. And so, after Yukio arrives and warns Logan of his impending and bloody demise, she and Logan go to the hotel of Mariko's fiancé, Noburo, to interrogate him. Turns out, for a minister of justice, Noburo ain't that honorable. Because Mariko became the new CEO of her grandfather's company and as well, he and Mariko's father conspired to get her kidnapped by the Yakuza. Much later, Mariko is brought to her dad, who tries to murder her in a jealous rage. Suddenly, ninjas attack and Mariko is whisked away, led by Harada. Logan and Yukio make it to the estate, and when they get to the medical room, Logan uses Yoshida's x-ray machine, and he discovers that there's a parasitic robot literally inside his heart, which is preventing his healing factor from working properly. So, Viper had that little parasite robot in her mouth when she poisoned Logan and orally inserted it into Logan's mouth when she poisoned him and it went down the throat? I'm sure someone immature like Deadpool would be asking that. Anyway, Logan decides to operate on himself to get rid of the little parasite, and he goes out of his way to use his claws to cut himself open and go into his own chest to get it out, which is gross when I say it, but it's way more gross when it's shown on screen. But then Shinjan, in all his excellent timing, decides to attack, but thankfully, Yukio fends him off. While Logan successfully gets the little parasite out of his chest, and after taking a minute to breathe, Logan's healing factor is back in business. Logan kicks Shinjan's ass and kills him, by God! And the crowd goes wild! Logan and Yukio find the trail to where Mariko was kidnapped, and they discover that it's the village where the Yoshida family was born. Logan fights Harada's ninjas, and although he puts up one hell of a fight,
he gets outgunned! What outmanned? What outnumbered, outplanned?
And inevitably captured. Logan is strapped into a machine by Viper because she plans on extracting his healing factor.
Ooh, that's bad.
Yes, that is bad, Homer. Viper introduces Logan to the Silver Samurai, who has swords made of adamantium. Meanwhile, although Harada believed he was working with Viper based on a desire to help Mariko, acting in her best interests, he eventually sees the errors of his ways and helps Logan escape, but then Harada gets killed by the Silver Samurai cyborg. Yukio sneaks inside, fights Viper, and then Yukio kills Madam Viper. Guess Madam Viper couldn't hang in there. Meanwhile, Logan fights Silver Samurai, but then Double S severs all 6 of Logan's adamantium claws. Oh, the humanity! Oh, wait a minute, he's a mutant. As Silver Samurai extracts Logan's healing powers, Wolverine soon learns that Silver Samurai ain't no cyborg. Silver Samurai is actually Ichiro Yashida! Dun dun dun! Yep, Ichiro faked his death and is ready to take all of Logan's immortal healing factor for himself. And he'd get away with it too if it weren't for a meddling granddaughter. Welp, Mariko meddles by stabbing Ichiro in the neck with Logan's severed claws. This gives Logan enough time to grow back his bone claws. He stabs Ichiro, says, "Sayonara," and then lets him go, killing Ichiro Yashida. Logan dreams of Jean Grey one last time and says goodbye to her, letting her go while also letting go of his guilt. Mariko accepts her role as the new CEO of Yashida Industries, and she and Logan say goodbye to each other as Logan decides to leave Tokyo to come back to America, Yukio by his side as his bodyguard. But that's not all! In a mid-credits scene, we time-skip to 2 years later with Logan back in America. Suddenly, Magneto appears in front of Logan, played again by Sir Ian McKellen after 7 years. Logan ain't too thrilled to see Magneto, and who can blame him? But Eric ain't alone. Suddenly, Charles Xavier appeared, played again by Sir Patrick Stewart. What? 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 Yeah, I'm sure if you didn't see the post-credits scene to X-Men The Last Stand, you would be confused to know that Professor Xavier actually survived getting blown up and put his consciousness into another body as revealed in that post-credits scene. I don't blame you if you get confused and you say, "What?" But Charles and Eric are here to warn Logan of a deadly new weapon that will not only be a threat to mutant kind, but also humanity, and they must find a way to stop them, a foreshadowing of the future past to come. I was 16 going on 17 when I first saw The Wolverine in theaters when it was released in 2013. 2013 was a year where a lot of divisive superhero films like Iron Man 3 and Man of Steel were released, and we also had Thor the Dark World and Kick-Ass 2. I did see those other films too, except for Kick-Ass 2, because, well, I'd never seen the first film, and despite the fact that I have mixed feelings about Zack Snyder's film work, I still think Man of Steel is decent, but I digress. Looking back 11 years later in retrospect, I think the best superhero film that was released in 2013 is definitely The Wolverine. It's funny. X-Men Origins is often considered the worst of the solo Wolverine films, but in my opinion, I think The Wolverine is a massive improvement over the 2009 prequel. It's as if James Mangold observed what didn't work with Last Stand and X-Men Origins, acknowledging and reconciling with the controversial flaws of the past, and deciding to focus on what did work and improving on it the same way Nicholas Meyer took out what didn't work and improved on what did work when he directed Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. The final act with the surprise revelation of Silver Samurai may not be perfect. In fact, I was surprised that it was a result of studio interference. But unlike the Deadpool revelation in X-Men Origins, I actually wasn't bothered by this third act twist. I was indeed shocked, but I went along with it, and I was also shocked when Wolverine's adamantium claws were severed. I honestly think the villains are also an improvement. Danny Huston was alright as Stryker, and Liev Schreiber was well cast as Sabretooth. Thankfully, villains like Madame Viper and Ichiro Yashida are also a welcome addition, even if they suffer from meeting their demise at the end. They're still memorable, and thankfully actors Haruhiko Yamanouchi and Svetlana Kojenkova do a great job playing the villains, and it's a result of good direction on James Mangold's part. The action sequences are awesome. We get to see Wolverine fight on bullet trains and other creative avenues, paying homage to the Frank Miller storyline. The special effects are also an improvement over X-Men Origins. In fact, the adamantium claws look much more realistic and don't suffer from half-assed CG cartooniness. The story is also a nice change of pace. Whereas previous X-Men films have been bombastic and have sometimes put the world and mutant kind at stake, the Wolverine decides to just relax and tell a more personal story of a world-weary man struggling to overcome his personal demons, eventually learning how to live, and the movie also doesn't forget to be an action film. The film is also well acted, especially with Hugh Jackman. Hugh is in peak physical form as Wolverine, and the lengths he went to in order to get physically buff should be nothing to sneeze at. He's looking great. Ah, hell. Hugh Jackman still looks good for his age, and I only pray I look half as good as he does when I reach his age. His acting is great, and he does a great job portraying a world-weary mutant still trying to let go of the guilt of Mercy killing the woman he loves. Like I said before, the scenes with Famke Janssen as Jean Grey are also a nice addition, so it was nice to see her, McKellen, and Stewart return as their respective characters. All the other supporting actors do a good job with what they're given, and Mangold's direction is a big help. I feel like after the Wolverine was released, X-Men fans and Marvel fans definitely got spoiled with good Marvel movies, so the film got lost in the mix, oftentimes being overshadowed by often divisive 2013 superhero movies and other Wolverine and Deadpool films. So I can say that The Wolverine is an underrated sequel. It may not be as great as Logan and Days of Future Past, but it's certainly an improvement over The Last Stand and X-Men Origins Wolverine.
You know, in conclusion, The Wolverine is definitely a very good film. Underrated and deserves a lot more love. And it feels like a nice foreshadowing of how James Mangold could handle Wolverine with Hugh Jackman. And this is the same guy who directed Walk the Line. It's like, when I first watched Walk the Line, I never imagined years later he'd be doing a Wolverine movie. Two very successful ones, in my opinion. Personally, I give this film 4 stars. It's a massive improvement, even if it does suffer from a flawed third act. I'm willing to forgive the third act. But anyway, that's my review of The Wolverine. Next week, I'm going to be doing a review of the first Deadpool movie released in 2016. Oh boy, I'm excited for that. So, be sure to catch up on that. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.